Personality NLP case study for Bharat. Since Barat has Shravana rising in Capricorn as his ascendant, his personality likely reflects a blend of discipline, responsibility, and inner attentiveness. Capricorn gives him a grounded, methodical approach to life, someone who prefers structure, takes goals seriously, and values reliability. Shravana, on the other hand, adds an observational intelligence and a quiet hunger for learning. This nakshatra is deeply connected to listening, pattern recognition, and understanding meaning through layers. So Bharat may come across as thoughtful, precise, and perceptive, especially in how he processes and interprets the world. He likely pays close attention to what is said and unsaid, listening between the lines and remembering details others forget. There's an underlying emotional wisdom here, even if he doesn't always show it outwardly. From an NLP standpoint, this ascendant leans toward an auditory digital filter. Bharat likely seeks logic, clarity, and internal structure when making decisions. He may find comfort in systems that make sense, and he's probably good at mentally sequencing his experiences. His attention direction is self-referencing. He filters the world based on personal standards and internal resonance. When something aligns, he moves forward. When it doesn't, he likely pulls back and reevaluates. Adding to that, Bharat also has Mercury in Dhanishta and Venus in Shravana, both placed in the first house. This combination makes his personality especially expressive, analytical, and socially aware. Mercury in Dhanishta sharpens his mind and adds rhythm to his speech and logic. He likely communicates with intention and has a talent for organizing complex ideas into digestible patterns. Dhanishta's beat gives him timing. He probably knows when to speak and how much to say. NLP-wise, Mercury here enhances his auditory communication and supports a little chunking style. He learns through steps, processes, and specifics, and prefers to break things down into manageable units. His decisions are probably backed by detailed analysis, even if the outcome feels intuitive to others. Venus in Shravana brings grace, charm, and a refined social presence. Bharat may come across as warm, balanced, and emotionally intelligent, but not in an overly expressive way, more like someone who observes quietly, connects meaningfully, and values harmony. Venus here also points to a subtle aesthetic sense. He likely notices tone, design, or emotional atmosphere in a room. From an NLP angle, Venus in the first supports a kinesthetic processing style, especially in social and relational settings. He moves toward what feels elegant, respectful, or aligned. His relational decisions are guided by subtle cues, comfort in connection, and emotional resonance. Together, these first house placements, Ascendant in Shravana, Mercury in Dhanishta, Venus in Shravana, create a persona that is thoughtful, precise, socially graceful, and internally discerning. Bharat likely leads with quiet confidence, and his strongest moves come when his inner logic and emotional clarity are in agreement. He probably values communication that's both intelligent and considerate, and prefers interactions that offer depth, not just noise. In the second house, Bharat has the sun placed in Purva Bhadrapada, which adds depth, intensity, and a philosophical tone to his speech, values, and self-worth. The second house governs how we express ourselves, our relationship with money and material stability, and our core value system. With the sun here, Bharat likely takes these themes seriously. His voice likely carries quiet conviction, and he probably sees communication as a reflection of one's integrity. He's not one for small talk when something meaningful can be said instead. Purva Bhadrapada adds a mystical, reformative layer. Bharat may hold strong personal beliefs, but they are often unconventional, evolving, or transformative in nature. He might use speech as a vehicle for expressing big-picture ideas, inner revelations, or moral clarity. NLP-wise, this sun supports an auditory digital processing style and a general chunking preference. Bharat probably speaks in layered concepts, referencing broad systems of thought or ethical principles. His frame of reference is internal. He evaluates his communication based on inner alignment rather than audience reaction, and his words tend to carry the weight of personal insight. In the sixth house, Bharat has Rahu placed in Punarvasu, which brings an unconventional and mentally agile approach to problem-solving, service, and work habits. The sixth house is about how we handle responsibility, structure, and conflict. And Rahu here suggests Bharat thrives in environments that allow intellectual flexibility, variety, and exploration. Punarvasu, ruled by Jupiter, adds a nurturing, expansive tone. He may approach challenges with a mix of logic and intuition, preferring to understand the bigger system rather than just fix surface-level problems. Rahu in this nakshatra can make Bharat both idealistic and inventive in how he manages stress or structure. He might resist rigid rules in favor of more holistic solutions and is likely drawn to work that gives him room to think, explore, or even teach. NLP-wise, this placement supports Ford's motivation style. He's driven by what could work better, how things could be improved, and what possibilities lie beyond the present system. His chunking style is mixed. He can toggle between specific detail, when troubleshooting, and general perspective, when planning or analyzing workflow. His processing filter here is also auditory digital, and he likely internalizes routines as mental sequences, often tweaking them to better suit his values and mental rhythm. Together, these placements suggest that Bharat approaches both communication and work from a space of deep principle and innovation, balancing personal insight with the ability to improve or reform the structures around him. Moon in Maga in the 8th house gives Bharat a deeply introspective and emotionally complex inner world. The 8th house governs transformation, hidden processes, and emotional depth. And with the moon here, his emotional life is likely private, intense, and tied to a sense of personal legacy or internal power. Maga, with its ancestral and regal symbolism, suggests that Bharat may carry a sense of inner authority or even responsibility for honoring something larger than himself, family values, spiritual integrity, or karmic refinement. He likely doesn't share emotions freely, but feels deeply, especially around issues of trust, control, and intimacy. NLP-wise, the moon here reflects a reactive, kinesthetic processing style. Bharat responds emotionally to what feels right or wrong beneath the surface. He may withdraw when emotionally overloaded, preferring solitude to sort through complex inner material. His chunking style here leans general, often sensing broad emotional shifts or patterns before drilling into detail. He likely relies on dissociation as a survival skill, observing his emotions before fully engaging with them. Emotionally, he needs a sense of dignity and respect in close bonds. If those are compromised, he'll retreat rather than confront. Saturn and Mars in Chitra, in the 9th house, add structure, drive, and high standards to Bharat's belief systems, long-term vision, and philosophical orientation. The 9th house governs higher learning, ethics, and purpose, and with both Saturn and Mars here, Bharat likely approaches these areas with intensity and seriousness. Chitra adds design, order, and a need to build things that are meaningful, so he may view his worldview as something to be constructed, tested, and refined over time. Saturn in Chitra makes him disciplined about his beliefs. He doesn't adopt ideas quickly and likely questions systems until he can verify their usefulness and truth. His processing style here is auditory digital and matching. He looks for repeatable logic and ethical consistency, and he's uncomfortable with beliefs that don't hold up under scrutiny. His action orientation is reactive. He'll commit deeply once something has proven itself, but he doesn't jump easily. Mars in Chitra adds a proactive drive to pursue knowledge and act on belief. Bharat likely feels a quiet urgency to build something that reflects what he knows to be true, whether that's in writing, teaching, design, or strategic action. He may experience bursts of energy tied to moral or visionary goals, and when he does, he works with precision and clarity. NLP-wise, Mars here enhances kinesthetic drive. He acts when something feels aligned, and is especially motivated when his purpose is intellectually or ethically clear. Together, this Moon-Saturn-Mars configuration gives Bharat a rich and disciplined inner world, emotionally profound, ethically rigorous, and mentally strategic. His growth path lies in refining his emotional insight and aligning it with structured, intentional outward action. Jupiter in Swati in the 10th house brings refinement, diplomacy, and idealism into Bharat's public role, career path, and sense of social contribution. The 10th house governs how we're seen in the world, our leadership, responsibilities, and ambitions. And with Jupiter here, Bharat likely carries an aura of thoughtful wisdom and ethical presence in professional settings. SWAT, ruled by Rahu and associated with balance, movement, and individuality, makes him adaptable yet principled, someone who learns the rules but then redefines them with elegance and fairness. Jupiter in this nakshatra gives Bharat a desire to guide, teach, or elevate others through his work, but not through force, rather through influence, coherence, and well-timed articulation. He likely values intellectual freedom and may be especially effective in roles that require negotiation, cultural navigation, or broad communication. NLP-wise, this Jupiter supports a general chunking style. He thinks in overarching frameworks and seeks to understand how things fit into wider systems. His processing filter is auditory digital. He likely processes professional success through principles, structure, and clarity rather than mere performance. His motivation direction is towards, drawn by vision, values, and a desire to create something expansive or inspiring. Ketu in Uttara Ashada in the 12th house gives Bharat a spiritually mature, detached, and quietly discerning approach to solitude, intuition, and transcendence. The 12th house governs the subconscious, isolation, and spiritual release, and with Ketu here, there is often an innate understanding of impermanence, loss, or the hidden forces that shape life. Uttara Ashada, known for its righteous resolve and connection to long-term dharma, adds a tone of commitment and quiet strength. Bharat may feel that he's already done the outer struggle in this area. What remains is surrender, integration, and reflection. Ketu here supports deep intuitive knowing. Bharat may get insights without knowing how he knows, and he likely requires regular solitude to process them. NLP-wise, this reflects dissociation, general chunking, and a preference for solo work in emotional or creative integration. He probably doesn't feel the need to speak every insight. Some things are processed in silence over time. His motivation in this area leans moving away from false complexity, ego pursuits, or entanglements that disrupt his spiritual or psychological peace. Together, Jupiter and Ketu shape a personality that is both outwardly principled and inwardly free. Bharat likely leads with values, works with vision, and retreats to recharge or recenter. He balances outer success with inner silence, and his path involves using intellect and intuition in tandem to build something meaningful while staying unattached to overall NLP conclusions for Bharat. Bharat's NLP profile reveals a personality that is structured, observant, principled, and internally aligned. He blends a steady sense of purpose with emotional depth and intellectual clarity, filtering life through both a strategic mind and a quiet emotional compass. His growth and action patterns suggest someone who works best when he can move deliberately, think independently, and act from a place of both logic and inner alignment. His dominant processing styles are a blend of auditory digital and kinesthetic. Across key areas, speech, 2nd house Sun, work, 10th house Jupiter, and belief, 9th house Saturn Mars, he evaluates ideas through internal logic, sequencing, and ethical structure. But emotionally, Moon in 8th, and interpersonally, Venus in 1st, he also filters experiences by feel, sensing resonance, timing, and relational texture. He likely asks, does this make structural sense? And does this feel right at a deeper level? His chunk size is domain-specific. In emotional and spiritual areas, Moon, Ketu, he prefers general chunking, seeing broad arcs, themes, and hidden connections rather than isolated details. In work, speech, and action, Mercury, Mars, Rahu, he shifts to specific chunking, preferring steps, sequences, and detailed problem-solving. He knows how to zoom in when something needs fixing, but also how to zoom out when he needs perspective. Bharat's motivation direction is predominantly towards oriented. He moves in the direction of clarity, meaning, and improvement. Rahu in the 6th, Jupiter in the 10th, and Mercury in the 1st all point to a natural drive to grow, refine, and elevate both himself and his surroundings. He's energized by vision, and his goals tend to be purpose-driven rather than ego-driven. However, in emotionally intense or spiritual areas, Ketu in the 12th, Moon in the 8th, he also shows a mature away from motivation, letting go of noise, false attachments, or overly dramatic dynamics that cloud his clarity. His frame of reference is strongly internal. Bharat trusts his own timing, logic, and emotional read above external approval. Whether he's speaking, 2nd house Sun, working, 10th house Jupiter, or withdrawing, 12th house Ketu, he measures success and alignment from within. He is not easily swayed by trends or noise. He makes decisions based on coherence with his values and inner structure. His action style is mostly proactive, especially when clarity is present. Mars in 9th, Mercury in 1st, Rahu in 6th. He acts with intent and precision, especially when there's a moral or intellectual reason to do so. In emotional or high-stakes areas, however, he may shift into a reactive mode, preferring to pause, observe, and allow internal processing before taking visible action. Moon in 8th, Saturn in 9th, Ketu in 12th. Bharat also shows a preference for solo or independent work styles, particularly in emotional, spiritual, or creative zones. He likely needs solitude to reset, reflect, and reconnect with his internal guidance. Socially, he may be selective, more drawn to relationships that offer depth, purpose, or intellectual resonance than superficial socializing. Overall, Bharat emerges as someone who leads with quiet precision, ethical consistency, and emotional intelligence. He's a long-game thinker, a private feeler, and a principled contributor. His strongest moves come not from impulse or pressure, but from deep inner clarity, when thought, feeling, and timing converge.